have an episode where we're highlighting three incredible educators from UCLA Lab School. It's my alma mater. Go Bruins. We love Westwood. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jennifer. We're so excited. She's an expert on social and emotional learning, and we're so excited to dive into this so important topic, especially where young people are today. I can't think of something more important than really understanding how to emotionally coach young people to their best potential. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So how do you get
Or
into
us.
this? Yeah, us. It's a crew today. We're lucky. We need to get more chairs so you all can join at the same time.
That's
We can
right.
make more like a show next time. Yeah, next time we will. Yeah, so we learn from you all today. So what made you so passionate about the emotional learning? I love this. This is a really complex topic. How did you get so good at it?
I'll start with the passion for it.
Yeah.
Prior to coming to the UCLA Lab School, I worked in public schools for about 22 years. And I started back on the East Coast in New Jersey in a school that in the education world we call Title I, right?
Or Camden or
no, East Orange.
East Orange. Yeah,
East
yeah,
Orange.
great.
And
Right there.
it is. And that's where I cut my teeth as an educator. And what I observed was the students behaving differently in my classroom than they did elsewhere. So I'm just insanely curious and was trying to understand what was behind the behavior change or the different motivation. And when I went back to school, I went to Rutgers to earn my master's and then my doctorate. I focused on the sociology of education, which helped me to understand how, or not how, but the important role that a teacher or a trusted adult plays in a student's life based on how they interact with them, not just in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom, and how that relationship motivates the student to want to do better. And so as I continue to grow in my learning, I guess, of what happened in a school setting, I just was continuing with that curiosity. I was like, how do we capture the student's interest? How do we meet them where they are? How do we connect with them in a proper, functional way and help them move along their journey and create more options for themselves?
So how do you think technology has helped or hurt that?
It has hurt it a lot.
I don't disagree. Let's hear more though. I always say that technology is incredible for scaling solutions.
Yes.
But the emotional, and again, and this is, by the way, our listeners know this is not about subject. This is about the educator. I just tie in subject anecdotes when it makes sense. For us, we always say we need the teachers there more than ever before for the emotional coaching.
Right.
More than ever before.
Right.
And that's where your expertise is. So tell me more. Why is technology hurting emotional connection?
It hurts emotional connection because we have lacked intention in how we've interacted with the technology, right? So we need technology. There are a lot of benefits to the interaction in our life, but without intentional conversations about how we move through the digital space, it's hurtful to families and to children because the children are just learning, period. They're not just learning how to move in a digital space. They're learning how to move at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. All of those interactions are new to them. And so without having intentional conversation, intentional structures, intentional responses on how to nurture their journey through that, they're developing their own ways of understanding that don't necessarily translate to positive connections.
Yeah, no. So what do you think we could do better there? What have you done at the UCLA Lab School that you feel is different than a lot of these issues that can learn from you all?
I think the number one thing that we do differently is our approach to social emotional learning. We have an explicit SEL curriculum where we're both proactive and responsive. From the proactive perspective, we have weekly lessons that are delivered by the classroom teachers. And then reactively or responsively, when there is conflict, because conflict is part of our lives, we have it is. And we look at conflict as many teachable moments. And we have very explicit responses to facilitate mediations, for conflict resolution. And then the entire approach is values-based. There are about 10 values that we've decided as a community are the core of who we are. So when they are values-based, we can have very intentional conversations. Does this behavior align with our understanding of kindness, right?
So for the youngest students, it's called the 4, 5, 6-year-olds, what's that teach them about conflict resolution? I think it's so amazing because I was even thinking about this other day for my own life is at this point, my role at this company mostly is handling people and support and really being able to diffuse situations or escalate as needed.
Yes.
But it's all about conflict resolution. And so how do you teach that to such a young person? And what's it been like? I think that's so cool. I wish I would have been at this school.
Yes. I wish a lot of people had been at this school.
Agreed.
It's adorable, right? So since they're so young, we can't talk to them about values. Like, how do we
Yeah, yeah.
talk about integrity with a 4-year-old?
Yeah.
But if we're talking, we use actual tools. We call them the cool tools. There's 16 of them, and
Tools.
they represent the different values, right? So we start off every single school year talking about the bubble of space, and that refers to responsibility because you have a responsibility. That bubble of space is like your personal space. So you're building self-awareness because you know when someone is too close, and then learning how that feels when they're too close, or learning what someone does that pops your bubble. So that language of all the 16 tools is part of the everyday conversation in the classroom. So when the friction happens, right? Because you're talking about
it's gonna
4-year-olds
happen.
and I dump sand over your head,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the adult, whoever is the person facilitating the mediation or the sorted out, they are going to speak to each person individually to have that person give I statements. We call it being a straight pretzel.
Smart, yeah, because then you're not blaming on the other
Right.
person. That's how I feel.
Exactly. Talk about what you did. Then they must also hear from the other person because intent and impact are two different things, right?
Completely agree with that. It's all about the intent, I
Right.
assume, right? Or
No,
no? Okay,
it's both. It's both, right? Because when you're talking intent and impact, I dumped the sand over your head because I thought it would be fun. But
Yeah, you can see that.
right, you can see that. But
age,
then also, because this is part of our work at the lab school and we're all about identity, you dumped that sand over some little black girl's hair.
Yep.
And her mother is going to be mad. So that little girl, it's not funny to her because she knows what wash day looks like.
And it's true, and a lot of people, they don't understand other cultures at that age, and you're already teaching them about that. It's incredible.
From 4 years old, we're having that conversation.
So amazing.
I statements, hear the other person, have an intentional conversation about intent and impact. And it's like, okay, everybody got their feelings out.
Yeah.
Now we need to go forward. We need some agreements. What do the both of you agree to do going forward? And then we write them down.
I love it. Everything's got to be written. Documentation.
Yeah. And they circle pictures and they are involved from 4 years old. It really is like signing a contract, right? Because those are some of those, what we used to call the soft skills that are part of being a positively contributing member of democratic society, right? So we're priming them in a very positive way.
So how do you teach these incredibly emotionally mature young people, which is so impressive? Again, I'm so envious. I wish I had this experience. When they're not in your school setting, dealing with other people who aren't as respectful, what's your biggest coaching there?
Remember the values, remember the expectations, remember the community agreements, because the majority of our student population starts at 4 years old. So they're with us for a while. And so that gets baked in, right? So it's there. We planted the seeds, but then because they're in a different stage of development, cognitive development, now they have to like tap into what we planted and we've been fertilizing and learn how to use it in a digital space or in middle school when they leave us.
That's amazing. I love the inspiration is great. What do you think more schools, they just want to take one thing from the UCLA Lab School around emotional development? You know, let's speak to our fans. I'm from Illinois, Michigan. Let's speak to my school in Cary, Illinois right now.
Okay.
If you had one thing to say, like what could we start incorporating in other school districts that may not have the tools or the resources at this time, but if you had one teaching to send their way, what would it be?
Develop a common language around social emotional learning. Everyone needs to be speaking the same language. Without that, you will continually have miscommunication. So develop the understanding in the community. What does this mean to us? Who do we say we are? I think that starting there goes a long way.
Common language, everyone, common language. And again, we can't forget the moment of gratitude. What teacher or student do you want to shout out? Who would you love to say hello to? Who can we be able to put some connection and good vibes towards today?
You know what? I'm going to say my 11th grade English teacher, Mrs. Wells, where I grew up, because I grew up in New Jersey too.
Yeah, let's go.
And I didn't have a lot of Black teachers. And so she came in out of nowhere that 11th grade year and was our English teacher. And it was an elective course, so there was like a very small group of us. But that very small group of us happened to include my ex-boyfriend and my ex-friend that he was now with, right? This is really serious. And right?
No, I agree.
Very
I can feel for you as like that. I remember those times.
It's hard, right? Necessary, but hard.
It's so emotional. You're like, you feel the passion of love so much more at the younger ages, I feel like.
So she could see that there was something going on.
Yeah.
And she asked the questions and she provided the emotional support and she talked me through that year in such a special way that I had never received from someone outside of my house or my immediate family. And so the Martian Chronicles, Fahrenheit 351, is it 351? 451. Yeah, Fahrenheit 451. They became so much more important to me because I was reading deeply into them, trying not to be an emotional mess in that
Yes.
classroom. And she walked me through that year. So
Amazing. You hear this first here. And this is where we talk about teachers and coaches being heroes of society. Look at the impact and then how many people with your incredible social, emotional activities you're impacting.
Yeah.
That's why every conversation with a young person means more than anything in the world. And we have to fight for our kids. It's all about the students. And so thank you so much for sharing your
Thank you.
passion today. It's beautiful. And we're so excited for this episode to drop. And remember, click like and subscribe, Spotify, YouTube. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.